Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Wethuli, class assembly.
A better tomorrow starts with one small step today. So when will you take yours? Standard Bank, it can be.
I want to take this opportunity to point out that we certainly appreciate the very important role that the media plays in our society. We appreciate the enormous contribution that you as journalists make in building our society, in building our country, in placing before society various things that society should know. Of course, you know what I'm talking about because you have played a very important role towards the creation of this commission. Indeed, as I have been hearing evidence since August 2018, I've come across many areas where it was quite clear to me that had we not have the kind of investigative journalism that we have in this country, this society and this commission would not have known certain things, ugly things that have now been placed before society. So I don't want you as the media and journalists to ever think that when we have not been available, it has been because we don't appreciate the important role that you play. We really salute you for your contribution. We think that this commission has benefited enormously from the investigative journalism that we have in this country.
As author William Safire once wrote,
that the fourth estate is an acknowledgement of the media's influence and status amongst the greatest powers of a nation. We, as South Africa's media, are a true definition of this description. South African media can be proud of their watchdog role in society. Investigative reporters make an enormous contribution to uncover corruption and state capture, as was acknowledged by Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, and journalists play a key part in keeping the public abreast of COVID-19 developments. In this age of technology, we are bombarded with information. Data, opinions, and live streams delivered in real time from anyone. Snippets, quotes, less than 150 characters, and a single photo, all used to build stories. But with the right filter and algorithm, the flow of information can be presented as facts, taken out of context, delivered raw, or manipulated into propaganda. How does the public manage this information? This is our role as the fourth estate and is driven by the rapid growth in our digital platforms to reach the public with a truthful depiction of fact. We have the power to shape opinions and values through our growing technologies. Our stories should be motivated by the public good and not purely profit. The Standard Bank Sikuvile Journalism Awards recognizes these teams and individuals who are the wisdom in a world of knowledge, lone voices that speak out from among the crowds of confusion.
In fact, our theme for this year is Innovate the Fourth Estate. If we look around the world during the last 2 years, the most amazing technological and business ideas have been brought to the fore. And there was no option, right? It's either you swam or you sunk. So newsrooms also had to innovate. And I suspect some of the structures that were actually put in place during the pandemic will remain, even post the pandemic. It's this innovation that allowed us to continue informing, inspiring, and giving a voice to every single South African through storytelling, even during the hard lockdown. So I'm hoping that this theme will encourage all of us to think creatively and use what we have been through as the nation to be innovative, right? And not only to be innovative due to necessity, but being innovative as the new norm. So Innovate the Fourth Estate is the theme for 2022 for the 10th Standard Bank Sikuvile Awards. I would like to take this opportunity as well to welcome our YouTube viewers who have joined us for the awards presentation section. There'll be about a 45-minute or so break for dinner. After that, we'll have the upcoming speeches as well, and then we'll rejoin with our YouTube streamers. And it's on that note that I would like to welcome the SANEF chairperson, Sibusiso Ngalwa, who happens to be my colleague as well as Prime Media, to come and give us their opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Clement. You know, ladies and gentlemen, when you have a journalist as an MC, he tends to hoard all the information. Everything I was meant to say here, he ended up saying. From the categories of the awards and the number of times that we as SANEF have hosted these awards. But also, he also didn't tell me that he has a teleprompter, you know? And here I am with my cell phone trying to scroll through and figure out what to say and what not to say. But that said, let me be kind enough to tell you that you guys look good tonight. All of you. Ladies and gentlemen, as I stand here, it's a great night, it's a beautiful night to celebrate the best of South African journalism. And I think myself and the Standard Bank CEO have the privilege of signing the awards. Trust me when I tell you that South African journalism is alive and is thriving, and the best of South African journalism is in this room tonight. But also, tonight is a great night Also, because today, as Clement said, we had the AGM of SANEF, where I was re-elected as chairperson for a second term. And I told the colleagues that I hope to finish it. Because we know in South Africa that second terms are quite volatile, ladies and gentlemen. As we gather here today, it gives me hope, the fact that we've had a horrible 2 years. Earlier today at our AGM, we reflected on this period where we've lost over 1,000 journalists, we've had over 100 publications closed down, we've had to set up a media relief fund, and with the generous donations of private individuals and corporate South Africa, including our friends Standard Bank, we were able to actually help colleagues with their sustenance. And I thought that was an important step because it showed us that even in the worst times, we're able to rally together as South Africans to help each other. And Standard Bank was actually kind enough to give us R1 million. There are two things that came out of today's AGM that I want to share with you. Because in all the gloominess that we've seen over the past 2 years, there are green shoots. There's an exciting future that lies ahead. It's not time to lament. We've gone through the worst of times, but now let's build. Let's make sure that we come up together to huddle together as South Africans, corporate South Africa, the media and other stakeholders to find solutions to make sure that the good journalism that we'll be seeing here tonight, that we continue to see these good stories, as the Chief Justice is saying, that journalism is an important pillar of this democracy. Two things, ladies and gentlemen, that I mentioned is that we decided today that in all the work that we do as the South African National Editors Forum, we have started a relationship with the South African Depression and Anxiety Group to try and help journalists to deal with mental health issues, be it depression, burnout, or PTSD, all of the issues that we face as journalists. But we thought that it's not enough, actually. We today formed a committee, a subcommittee of our management committee, which is led by Katie Katupodis, which will concentrate on the safety of journalists and mental health. It's called the Safety and Wellness Committee. The second, it's quite important, ladies and gentlemen, because we take it for granted that we are built tough. You go to a story, you experience a traumatic experience, you come back, you laugh about it, you smoke, and you forget about it. You know, but the reality is that we live through that. And as newsrooms, we reflected today that as newsrooms, we're actually not equipped to deal with trauma. We actually do not even understand. So the education starts with us. Before we partner with other people, before we try to help journalists, we also need to understand what our colleagues are going through. Again, I said, we decided that we're not going to lament. We are going to take practical steps to help our colleagues and make sure that we still have a media industry that is thriving. The second thing that we did is that when we were able to raise about 4.8 million, and we dispersed about 2 million and some change to about 500 journalists, just for their sustenance. But the reality is that we knew that that was not enough, that we need to come up with solutions that are lasting. And also, we have seen research from other jurisdictions. We have seen what other people have done. We had to we did our own research as SANEF to say, what can we do to help to make sure that the sustainability of the media is at front and center of what we are doing. We've decided that the most vulnerable sector, as Clement was saying earlier, is the community sector. That actually, if 100 publications have closed down, let no other publication close down. I'm sure they will, but let's at least try something. And this week we issued a tender calling on tech companies to actually come up with digital solutions for community media. Practically what this means is that if you have a small publication in Kwakwa and they're struggling on the verge of closing down, we should be able to present them with this digital solution where they can migrate to that digital platform, but also help them with a content management system so that they're able to publish going forward. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the practical steps that I'm talking about. So as SANEF, this is the first time that we're hosting these awards. I know that for Standard Bank is the 13th time, but we want to host them 13 more times. And the only way we can do that is if we make sure that we still have credible journalists that are producing good work in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, the one thing that stands out for me is the quality of the work that will be shared here. I know the convener of judges is coming, so I must not take her role. But the quality of the work that is produced in our country. It's been a tough time. It's been a tough industry. We've lost colleagues, people have lost jobs, but we continued to produce good work. And I think that is the one important thing that we should take out as we leave this place. So even as I stand here, even if you don't agree with me, don't worry, you will see that we have some of the best journalists in this country. So ladies and gentlemen, let me not waste any more time. Let me thank you for coming, and I hope to see you again next year and in 13 years' time. Thank you very much.
Whew, thank you, Sibu. Well, the teleprompters, those are MC privileges. I'm sure you have SANEF chairperson privileges as well. So, yeah. Okay. I'm not going to say much because, yeah, Sibu has warned. I don't want to say much, and then in case what I say is on the notes of the next guest. So, we've got 15 judges who were elected to find our 2022 nominees and winners. And Judge Thabo Leshilo is here tonight to present their report and give feedback on the judging process. So I'm going to stop there. So let's welcome Mr. Leshilo.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to say how beautiful you look. I'll break with what seems to be tradition. Yeah. Let me just say, Esbo, it really pleases me to hear you say the things that you said about helping journalists with trauma, and they need it. And the kind of work that you're doing, trying to help struggling community outlets. And may I just say that if you need help from people who've been there before, who've done this thing, I'm here, and there are a lot of other people that I see. Peter Sullivan is there, and I see a hell of a lot of other journalists who are here, who actually have a lot of time in our hands that can actually help to mentor people. And I'll offer to track them down for you and make sure that they actually do this. First of all, I would like to pay tribute to one of us who is no longer with us, Pindile Xaba. Pindile Xaba was one of our judges who sadly passed on just after we'd finished the judging process. She passed on the 7th of May this year. This was a few days, not even a week, after we had finished judging. We had no idea she was so unwell. I mean, none of us actually could tell. Because she said nothing and just got on with the business of judging. Even the consummate professional that she was. An abiding memory of Pindile from this year's judging is during a heated discussion, we were considering what concessions to make for any entry, and had been going back and forth on the pros and cons. There's usually a lot of debate about entries. Pindile was the voice of reason that brought us all down to earth. We had a duty to uphold the integrity of the awards, she said. She was right, and that was that. And that's how we actually proceeded. May Pindile's beautiful soul continue to rest in peace. Now, the convening judge's remarks. The Standard Bank Sikuvile Awards make a welcome return in 2022 after a break in 2021. At some point, we didn't have them, and we're not sure that we'll actually continue having the awards. And it's actually great to have awards. They've come back bigger and more inclusive, as for the first time, entries were open not only to print and media outlets, multimedia outlets, but also to broadcast. 2 new categories have been introduced: indigenous language reporting in community media. That's one long title, indigenous language reporting in community media. It has been set up to extend the competition to journalism that is often marginalized, whereas it is the closest to citizens who live in communities that are underserved by public and commercial entities. I think that's the kind of stuff that Sbo was also talking about earlier. The category is intended for work published or broadcast in other official languages other than English and Afrikaans, which have long had exclusive access to the awards. I think that's a welcome development for us. The community service reporting category is meant for entries that capture the lives and sentiments of a particular community. The judges made all allowances for as broad an interpretation of a community as possible. You actually have to debate what community means, right? So that to come to an understanding of what is it that we actually are awarding. And there's lots of debates about what community means. Unfortunately, it seems these changes did not reach as wide enough an audience. While there were entries from the broadcast sector, and very, very good ones at that, there were too few. There were even fewer entries for the indigenous language category, but none that the judges felt deserved an award. Unfortunately, we could not award in the category. It's the first time, and hopefully with time, there will be entries that are worthy to be awarded. We couldn't just say, let's award in order to encourage the sector. We award excellence. You know, it's not affirmative action. Misapplied, let me just qualify that. Unless somebody rushes off and says Lishilo is anti-affirmative action. I'm actually not sure whether I should be wearing my specs or not, but no, I'm not gonna, I'm just gonna leave them. Hopefully next time there'll be enough time to publicize, I would have said publicize the awards and to draw the attention of the industry to the changes that have been introduced. There were 357 entries, right, which is quite nice, roughly the same number as in 2020. The unpopularity, there is someone trying to stab at tabloid journalism. The unpopularity of the popular journalism category continued. So basically, this is what we call tabloid journalism. And when we started, it was quite popular. But with time, I don't know what's actually going on in that area. And then as a one-time editor of a tabloid, Sunday World, and I think it pains me that we don't have enough entries from that category. So the judges were dumbfounded as to what has happened to what used to be a highly contested category. It was usually contested category with lots of very good stories that had us debating which one to award and not. There were only 6 entries this year, a far cry from the dozens of entries in the heydays of this category that we used to get. I mean, even with, I'm not going to talk about it, but those are the year of tigers. And yeah. The judge is also disappointed with the very limited response from the country's photographers. Guys, Ruth, you and your people may need to pull up your socks. There were very few entries for all three photography categories. What made matters worse is that many worthy photographs were published during the year, but seemingly photographers were not confident enough about the way to submit them, their work for awards. We saw a lot of very good, great photos, but they were not submitted. That baffles me as why actually that happened. Even in cases where photographers entered their work, the judges felt that some photographers had not chosen the best among the published work. As judges, we can only work with what has been submitted. I can't say that, I remember that Ruth had this amazing photo, but she forgot to submit it, and then, hey, we work with only what we have. We remain grateful to Standard Bank for sponsoring the awards and to the Sikuvile organizing team at SANEF that has definitely taken over the running of these awards from print and digital media South Africa, which I think it just shut down, unfortunately, for the industry. Many thanks to the judges who availed themselves for this community service. It is a community service, a labor of love, by the way. They dedicated hours and hours for 2 weeks adjudicating these awards. The judges are Tyron August, Melanie Ann Ferris, Rylan Fisher, Helen Grange, Pippa Green, Taboli Shilo. Your name is, surname is quite difficult. We used to Mahlangu, now you have to say Mhlangu. Mapi Mhlangu, Lezim Fukeng, Ruth Mutau, Neo Nzuma, Sue Olswang, Mary Papaya, Gasiba, Gurukhala Tromp, and the late Pindile Klaba. It has been an honor to serve with these talented and professional judges for the Sikuvile Awards. Thank you very much.
What an important reminder that the work that we have submitted is what the judges work with, right? So we always have to put a lot of work into our submission. So it always has got to be excellent work. Thank you so much, Mr. Leshilo. It's time now to welcome the Standard Bank SACO, Lungisa Fuzile. But before we do, and by the way, Gav, who's our director, please let's give him more time. We want to keep Standard Bank as the sponsor. And the audience, just make sure you clap to everything he says. From the minute he says, good evening, just be like those ANC comrades. You know how the president would be saying, and like, that's what you need to do this evening. But on a serious note, ladies and gentlemen, we've spoken about the state capture inquiry and how it's now finalized its work. We understand now how our democracy was assaulted, and it was assaulted. But just as we had enablers of state capture, we also had resistors of state capture. And Mr. Fuzile is one such resistor. He served as DG at Treasury when every attempt was made to capture that institution. When Des Van Rooyen, remember him, the Weekend Special? When he arrived at Treasury, Mr. Fuzile was there. When Jacob Zuma tried to move Treasury to the presidency so that he can control the budgeting processes, he was there. When the nuclear deal, which was going to be the biggest ever financial commitment that the South African government makes, was being rushed through the processes, and not all the processes were being followed, and we didn't even know how we were going to pay for it, he was there. So we need to be reminded that the National Treasury could have fallen onto the wrong hands had it not been for people like Lungisa Fuzile and his colleagues at the time. In fact, the Chief Justice says in his state capture report, and I quote, "I shudder to think what would have happened to this country if Zuma was not forced to move Des Van Rooyen and his advisors from Treasury. And I shudder to think what would have happened to this country if we didn't have people like Fuzile, who refused to sell this country. I shudder to think what would have happened if we didn't have the fearless journalists who exposed what was happening." So ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. Lungisa Fuzile.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Chairman of SANEF, serving a second term, Mr. Sibungalwa. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, the Fourth Estate, good evening. Perhaps before I get carried away and make a long speech, because it's going to be interrupted by clapping, even when I'm just clearing my throat. I should just humbly request that, seated where we are, we should just bow our heads for a minute or less in silence to pay homage to those who Sbu was mentioning here, who perished to COVID over the past 2.5 years or so. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic had really robbed us of some of the best journalists that this country has had. People that I would call shapers and influencers of public discourse. But I guess at a time like now, very special week when our government has seen it fit to roll back some of the restrictions that were introduced to help us manage COVID, as we mourn and honor those who have departed, we must be grateful to be alive, and we must celebrate life. Life after COVID, or in the face of COVID, starts to carry a different meaning and a deeper meaning for most of us. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it is a singular honor for me to be here in person to address you. Can't tell you how many people I've hugged tonight, shaken hands with, and these are things that not so long ago we either couldn't do, or when we did them instinctively, we quickly checked who saw us, just in case someone captured the moment and uses that picture to embarrass us. So I wish to thank the Sikuvile organizers for partnering with us, for partnering Standard Bank to host this very prestigious event. Sbu, I hope that you too will have your 13 years at this, but you have got a long way to catch up on, my brother. This event is truly one of the standout events on the media calendar, where we celebrate media excellence and those who make it possible. I would like to congratulate all of you who are in the room this evening. Some of you are prospective winners, others are finalists. You will walk away with prizes. I've seen here editors, and I've seen here in the audience tonight some of the big names in South African journalism. I happen to be sitting with some of them there. I'm teasing one of them. I won't mention your name, lest she gets angry with me. I'm referring here, ladies and gentlemen, to men and women who continue to shine the spotlight on newsworthy events and developments in our country and elsewhere. They expose malfeasance wherever they spot it, and they bring us positive stories about the progress we're making as a young democracy. Yes, they are the ones who broke the story of the Gupta leaks, which culminated in the commission that wrapped its work just this week. Sometimes I feel that even you ladies and gentlemen of the media, do not fully appreciate. I know you, I mean, don't feel patronized by this, but I sometimes feel that you don't fully appreciate what you do for our democracy. Keep up the good work. I'm very happy that we're gathered like this after such a long time. Living amidst COVID made us realize that simple things that we took for granted, in fact, it meant a lot to us. Things such as hugging that I was commenting about and kissing, but of course I'm not encouraging these things because COVID is still around. We still have to act responsibly. I must say that your creativity combined with and aided by innovation, technology, the resilience of the human spirit meant that at a difficult time when it was not easy to gather stories, when it was not easy to test the veracity of the information you were gathering, you continued, however, to do this and do this superbly to serve the nation. COVID didn't spare any industry, but of course, in the face of the adversity visited by COVID upon us, we learned how to carry on with our business in the face of all the challenges that it posed. We found ways to stay in touch. We adopted and improved virtual ways of interacting. Tonight's event, is a product of the lessons we learned at the height of the pandemic. I understand, as the program director indicated, that while some of us are here in person, there are others who could only join us via virtual means. I also welcome them to this event tonight. Technology and innovation have kept us in touch with one another and ensured that we remained productive. But I'm sure most of you would agree with me that nothing beats human contact. It is irreplaceable, and it is a privilege, therefore, to be here in person tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, innovation, which is the theme of this evening's event, as our program director had just indicated, has allowed us to be here together, so to speak. It is truly a magical world where no matter where one is, we can still connect. Technology has changed the way we live and work. This is true for all industries. The expectations of our stakeholders, for all of us, have changed radically and quickly. In our case, in financial services, for an example, competition comes from unlikely quarters. Think of the disruption fintechs have visited to the financial services offerings. And to stay relevant, we have had to adapt. I'm sure this is true of your industry, by the way, as I will mention just now. When we think of technology, we imagine that it enables us to do things smarter, faster, easier, and cheaper than how they were done before. We think of the seamless adoption of this technology by the contributors and the users. We tend to think that we build it or provide it, and our customers or readers will adopt it. Sometimes they simply don't. They walk away. So innovation is not just a new idea. Innovation can be born of an idea or a method or indeed a device. But innovation will not outlast itself if we do not consider all of those factors. Take the example of banking again. It's complex, it's global, it's fickle, it's multifaceted, and it's of course fast-paced. It's heavily regulated. That's very rich coming from someone who used to regulate banks, by the way. And yet the end product has to be seamless. Think of your bank, which for most of us in this room, I hope this is not load shedding, but look where I'm standing. I'm still okay. Think of your bank, which for most of us in this room is currently residing in our pocket. This gadget, for an example. Your pass, and of course, you've got access to this service at the end of your fingertips. These lights are a problem. Excuse me. It needs to do that instantly. In other words, technology and access to it and the ability to access your services has got to be instant, it has got to be efficient. It's got to be efficient, not inefficient. And of course, it must comply with the relevant laws. But well-defined use of technology and innovation is a very powerful tool for development and for tackling the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, and most importantly, on our continent. With democratized technology, we can reach deep into needy communities and grow and add value to our continent, be it through banking or the media, which is the area where most of you in this room ply your trade. As a bank, Standard Bank is deeply committed to driving Africa's growth in a very meaningful way. We want to make a difference in the communities in which we operate. We like to prepare and plan for an always-on environment, and dare I say, an always secure one. But we don't always succeed. But we innovate around the challenges, and of course, where technology fails us, we apologize, and many of you saw me apologizing just a few weeks ago for the disastrous weekend where our systems didn't allow you to transact when you were taking your mothers on Mother's Day out to breakfast. And again, I'm still very sorry about that. I'm not making light of it. But it's just an example of how technology makes things possible, but at the same time, it can let you down. With that, we bank our most important currency, the trust. And I must say, ladies and gentlemen, trust matters in your profession too. Journalists or a media that is not trustworthy is not worth anything to its society. As I said, you are facing similar challenges, but in your case, perhaps I feel this way because I'm not one of you. I think your challenges are even more complex than those that we face in banking. Your sources of information are defined by the value of someone else's currency. Probably, like in our case, a cross-border transaction. But that information which you gather is often skewed by many complex factors, be they political, societal biases, business, or other group interests. The information currency needs to be measured and valued against another string of information from different sources too. And somewhere in between, the real story lies. As a bank in our case, we cannot function if there is no trust. So there is one of the parallels between what you do and what we do. Without trust, we wouldn't exist. If our customers lose faith and trust in us, we might as well close shop. Legitimacy, unbending compliance with the laws and trust are the cornerstone of our business. And the same, I imagine, applies to you equally. Media is built on trust. The need exists to disseminate information, test it, publish it. Trusted media, like banking, cannot exist by being partisan or blind to facts. Technology and innovation have brought immense challenges to your profession. Of course, they've also brought opportunities, as I indicated. People see and try to tell facts or stories before you do. And I mean untrained people like myself in your profession. And in their case, they do not face some of the strictures and the regulatory and ethical hurdles that you face. So in their case, they just see something, half of it, they take a picture, write a line, and they post it, and it's a story. When in your case, you are trying to process it to make sure that you don't mislead or misinform the public. I watch journalists on a near daily basis, working hard to get the facts, test them, get it right, and get it fast. They take multitasking to an absolute new level. Listen, write, comprehend, feed Twitter, post to the company website, update Twitter. And of course, they do all of this whilst feeling the pressure to be the first to break the story. I do not envy what you are faced with in your bid to keep us informed. You are a great service to our relatively young democracy. I think Sbu had said this quite eloquently, and indeed our program director. I would make bold and say that without you, our democracy would fail. Everyone here, every one of you here in this room and viewing online are heroes and heroines. We are eternally grateful to you and rightfully proud of what you do and what you have achieved under very trying circumstances over the last 2 years. It is for this reason, ladies and gentlemen, that we support at Standard Bank, we support events like this one, the Sikuvile Awards. How could I, for all people, make that mistake? It's about engendering trust among colleagues and partners. It's done to ensure that the First Estate continues to provide the essential services that make our democracy vibrant and ensure that it flourishes. We honor your excellence and your continued contribution to the dream of a better South Africa. We salute you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating the winners of the awards that will be dished out tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for reminding us about that trust element, Mr. Lungisa Fuzile. He says without trust, banks wouldn't exist, and we know that about our industry. Our credibility is literally our currency, right? And we're not perfect. We've had issues. I know SANEF at some point commissioned a report, was it a year or 2 years ago, that looked into the issues around trust in the media. And we have a lot of work to do because we need to re-establish that trust. And it doesn't help also that you've got decoupled issues as well. Pretend I didn't say that. It doesn't help, right? But we have a lot of work to do. And thank you, Mr. Lungisa Fuzile, for reminding us of that. We're going to have dinner now, our main course, and then we're going to get into the core business of the day. I'm sure a lot of you are hungry, so am I, so we're gonna eat. And then we're going to be celebrating some excellent journalists this evening. Are you excited? Yay! All right, let's have something to eat, and then we'll give out some awards.
London. You guys got 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. This is Darlington Okofu on the piano, Spilelo Maziboko on the drums, Benjamin Jaft on the bass. My name is Luanda Gogwana. Thank you. We'll see you in the second set.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
right. We are just about to get to the core of the business, so if we can all sit down, please. It's been incredible meeting our friends, our old colleagues, and we're going to settle down now and start with the core business of the evening. I just want to remind the winners, when you are announced, please come up on stage and receive your trophies, and all the finalists and commended journalists will receive a certificate, and you can pick them up from the registration desk when you are leaving the venue later this evening. And we've had wonderful cocktails, haven't we? We have had our starters, we have finished just now our main course. So we've kept you waiting for a very long time. So let's give away some trophies to some very deserving people tonight. Yeah? And this is how we're going to start. I'd like to ask SANEF Treasurer General Chamano Makadi and Kate Jones from Standard Bank to come onto the stage to help us give out the first sets of awards, please. Let's give them a hand. Thank you very much. Our first category for this evening is hard news, and the nominees are
For the story, Bushiri Escapes Again by Norman Masungwini and Situmo Stone from City Press. And July Unrest Breaking News from Team News 24 at News 24.
Well, congratulations to the nominees. Our first recipient of the 2022 Sikuvile Award goes to Team News 24. The whole team. Congratulations, Team News 24. A commendation certificate is awarded to Mike Lowe at the Daily Dispatch. We now move to Category 2. Now, there are no nominees for Category 2, which is for Indigenous language reporting in community media, due to submissions not meeting the required standards expected by the judging panel, as you heard earlier. The judges were expecting entries that displayed excellent journalism and a rich command of indigenous languages. However, their unanimous view was that none of the entries met the criteria. So that moves us to Category 3. This is our second new category for community services reporting, and it's aimed at issues that are really crafted from a community interest perspective, including general community features and creative journalism stories that are initiated to capture the depth of community sentiments and concerns. The nominees who can receive this award for the first time ever are
Four, 10 years after Andries Tatane's death, Vicksburg government says Rome was not built in a day. Buikuto Nsoko and Mia Lindeke from Eyewitness News. And for Tatum de Pierce, Nomvuyo Ntanjana, SABC 2 and SABC News Channel 404.
And our first ever community service reporting statue goes to Nomvuyo Ntanjana. Let's give it up to her again. And commendations are awarded to Don Pinnock and Kaya Koko. We move to category 4 now. Our fourth category is investigative journalism, one of the most important kinds of journalism. If it wasn't for investigative journalists, where would we be, right? Would we even know about digital vibes? Would we know about the extent of the state capture project? Would we know about anything really that government or those in higher authority have tried to hide from us? So this category was massively supported, and there are actually 6 entries, including 10 journalists who submitted their incredible work. And here they are.
Above the Law by Daniel Knutzer, News 24, Daily Maverick, Viewfinder, Roundup, and Carte Blanche. The QMX Files, written by Diewald van Rensburg from Amapungani. Blood Brothers, a tobacco industry death squad exposed by Jeff Wicks, Rudy Lowe, Shante Schatz, and Noktula Manyati from News 24. Digital Vibes by Peter Louis Myberg from Daily Maverick. Capture, The Case Against Nedbank by Susan Comrie and Sam Soul from Amapungani. And finally, Using Cape Town as a Launchpad by Tiara Walters from Daily Maverick.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me congratulate the winner of the Standard Bank Sikuvile statute for the best investigative journalism. And really, this is someone who's always availed himself every time he breaks stories about this particular story to explain more on television, on radio, about the evidence that he had uncovered. And his name is Peter Louis Myberg for Digital Vibes. And we now move on to category 5, which is on columns and editorials. These are people who help shape our opinions, who help with analysis and help us understand what happens in this country. And I'm sure you agree there's a lot that happens in this country. And here are the nominees.
Unmasking the IRR's Boogeyman by Chris Roper from the Financial Mail. And The Joke's on Us, South Africa by Mia Malan from Begi Sisa Center for Health Journalism.
Tonight's winner is, very deserving, Mia Malan. Congratulations, Mia. Commendations are awarded to Situmo Stone and Wilhelmine Bruma. Oh, also Johan van Eden as well. Let's give it up for them. We now move to category 6. As we said earlier, editorial cartoons and graphic layouts are now included in category 6, now referred to as visual journalism. This is open to every platform available, and the finalists are
Een jaar sedert eerste COVID-19 geval in SA by Jaco Grobbelaar and Arisa Janse van Rensburg. Netwerk 24, Beeld and Die Burger. Getting to know vaccines from Charlene Ruud, Bevan Lackey, Aljosha Kolstock, Stephanie Herbert and Noktula Manyati, Health 24. And finally, Johannesburg, the sinking city, from Sean Utum, Vuyo Singiswa, and Sarah Baitendach, the Financial Mail.
And the first visual journalism winners are Jaco Grobbelaar and Arisa Janse van Rensburg. Give it up again. So I'd like to thank Chamano and Kate for presenting the first group of awards. Thank you so much. You guys may take your seats. I would now like to ask SANEF Secretary General Monica Lagan-Parser, then Tatenda Khoradima from Standard Bank to come onto the stage and help us present the second group of the awards. So we're going to pick up from category 7, and here are the finalists for category 7, which is on features.
SA's Death Care Workers, On the Front Line, by Boikutso Nzoko from Eyewitness News. An Unlikely Chief Justice by Franny Rabkin from Sunday Times. thirsty for change in Limpopo's parched villages. Lucas Litwaba from Daily Maverick and Mail and Guardian. And body of work including Pandemi van Verdriet by Willemien Brummer, Netwerk 24.
Ladies and gentlemen, please help me congratulate the winner in the features category, Willemien Brummer. And a commendation is awarded for the second time tonight to Don Pinnock. We now move to category 8. In category 8, which is for popular journalism, our judges did not find any entries that met with the high standards that the judges had, and therefore there are no nominees and finalists in this category this year. The judges' unanimous view was that none of the entries met the criteria. They did not exhibit any of the flair in execution nor irreverence in the choice of material that is the hallmark of tabloid journalism. So sadly, none of the entries satisfied the criteria, so no award will be given. Which then moves us to category 9. News photographs. Here are the nominees.
Economic coffin after July insurrection. Jacques Nellis from The Citizen. Refugees left stranded without ablution facilities by Pandulwazi Chigelo from Cape Times. And King Goodwill Zweletini takes his final journey by Sandile Ndlovu, Times Live.
And the winning news photographer is Pandulwazi Chigelo. We now move to the category for feature photographs, and the shortlists for finalists are
Katlego, a South African cowboy, The Rodeo Dream, by Alon Sky from the Sunday Times. Miner's Daily Dice with Death by Jacques Nellis, The Citizen. Woman bear brunt of gold mining's rotten legacy by Lucas Litwaba from Mukurukuru Media. And The Swarm by Werner Hills from Weekend Post and The Herald.
And the coveted feature photographs trophy goes to Lucas Lidwaba. Congratulations, Lucas. We now move to the sports photographs category, and the nominees for this category are
For his second nomination, Katejo, a South African cowboy, The Rodeo Dream, by Alon Sky, Sunday Times. Springboks series win against British and Irish Lions by Issa Alexander from the Sunday Times. For his work on Red Bull King of the Air and second nomination tonight, Pandulwazi Chigelo, African News Agency. And 2021 Kosafa Beach Soccer Championship by Sandile Ndlovu from Times Live.
And the sports photographer of the year, in fact winning his second coveted Sikuvile award this evening, is Pandulwazi Chigelo. Congratulations, Pandulwazi. We now move to the category of lifestyle, and the finalists for the lifestyle category are
Fierce Date and die Dronk Dronk by Adrian Roots from Beeld. In Ever Mafia se Greep by Carla Lewis, also from Beeld. Kentridgenomics, what rocketing prices for Williams's work say about SA's art market. Graham Wood from Financial Mail. And finally, for indigenous crops, local is not only liquor, it's also a weapon in the climate crisis battle by Onke Nguka from Daily Maverick.
And the winner is Graham Wood. Congratulations, Graham. At this stage, I'll thank Monica and Yuso Chitela. Thank you so much for helping us hand out this set of the awards. You guys may take your seats. Thank you. And at this stage, I would like SANEF Chairman Sibusiso Ngalwa and the Standard Bank SACO Lungisa Fuzile to come onto the stage to help us present the final 3 awards. Just here. Yeah. Smooth. You love the screen, eh? You miss the screen, eh? So, the 2022 Rising Star of the Year award is shared between 2 up-and-coming journalists who can look forward really to a great future in the media world. So, the first recipient is Shonisani Chikalange. Despite being in the industry for only a short period of time, Shonisani Chikalange from Times Live has shown the ability to tackle the big stories by taking to those affected people, often giving a voice to those who might not have had a voice otherwise. Her stories dealt with serial killers, xenophobia, and Eskom's power cuts, among others, and she impressed the judges with her ability to get people to talk to her. So congratulations. Now, our second winner is Onke Nguka. Now, Onke's excellent environmental entries are in the features and lifestyle categories. She really approached each subject with an inspired use of storytelling skill, weaving research on climate change, and the rooibos plant into a vivid and penetrative narrative about rooibos farmers. So congratulations once again, Onke. So we now move to the 14th category. There are actually no entries for this category, as the winner is selected by the judges from the range of entries that are spanning the different categories that you've been exposed to this evening. The story of the year proves 2 things: that 1, journalists are needed and that their work actually matters now more than ever before, and that good journalism can bring about profound change. So the winner of the overall 2022 Story of the Year goes to Peter Louis Mayberg. Now, as he comes up, Peter Louis Mayberg's digital vibe story gave South Africans just much needed hope and has been a warning to the corrupt that their time will come, and that there are people watching who won't stand idly by and see our country robbed and stripped to its bare bones. And most importantly, this story proves that good journalists still play their trade relentlessly and are there to shine a light on the corrupt, their evil deeds and malfeasance. And the ripple effects of this story and its repercussions will be felt for a very long time. Congratulations, Peter. A lot of people that don't like you, Peter. That speaks to your work. Now we move to the Lifetime Achiever Award. The Alan Kirkland Soga Lifetime Achiever Award is presented this evening to Anthony Hurd. And I'd like us to clap, and before just Anthony comes, at the height of the most violent period in South Africa during the last decade of apartheid, the government increasingly clamped down on the media, as you may well know. But some voices had been prohibited from being heard for 25 years. And one voice was that of Oliver Tambo, the exiled leader of the banned African National Congress at the time, and it was the leading party in the liberation movement. And it was really Anthony's commitment to media freedom and to democracy that motivated him to share that story and give a voice to people like Oliver Tambo, make sure that his voice is heard at one of the darkest moments in South Africa, and that the true story of the Sikuvile 87 was told in spite of the dire media restrictions. And in doing so, he shone some light on the way forward for the country. So please, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to stand and help me welcome the Alan Kaklen Soga Lifetime Achievement Award recipient for 2022, Anthony Hurd. Do not give up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you to Sbu. Sir, just make sure that he doesn't take that award with. Yeah. Thank you to Sbu and Mr. Lungisa Fuzile. And ladies and gentlemen, what excellent journalism we showcased this evening. And I think that's it for the Standard Bank Sikuvile Awards. Wasn't that amazing? Just showcasing how excellent our journalism is. And I think this was another reminder of the great journalism that we do in this country. And this must give all of us hope, because for our constitutional democracy to thrive, we need a thriving fourth estate. So please remember, you can follow the publishers' services on Twitter at #Sikuvile Awards 2. And thank you so much. Those that have won, even the commendations, we're going to ask you to please go up to the bar area so that you can take the final picture. And remember, there's an edited version of the event from tonight that will be published on the same YouTube channel. You can go to www.sikuvile.org, and it's going to be available in the next 48 hours. And again, the winners, the nominees, commendees, please collect your certificates, which are currently being looked after at the registration area before you leave the venue. And then please go up so that we can take those pictures. You guys have been an incredible crowd. Even in the last 1 minute, you still gave attention and engaged with us. I really appreciate it. Have a good evening. Cheers. Just the last quick thing. Please remember, parking tickets Parking tickets are available for everybody at the exit to the venue. So when you leave the building, don't worry about paying for your tickets. They're available at the exit. Thank you. And don't leave just yet. Dessert is on the way.